wasn't going to be a long session. This was just, you know, if you've got any questions to ask, and it was just to make introductions. So I think what we'll do is I'll make a start, and forgive me for looking off to my right. It's because I've got some documentation that I want to refer to. So basically, the reason that we're running this course is because in the work that I do, the people I get to see, it's very, very obvious that there are a lack of understanding, not necessarily skills, but a lack of understanding about processes and how valuable those processes are to the assessing function. So we've written this program. Now we've been delivering this program, but in a much more in-depth process for probably about 3 years now. It's been very successful with it's, and what we've done is we've taken the highlights of that and condensed it down into a shorter program. This is only 10 sessions. The other one is actually over 3 days, but the 3 days are spaced out over about a month because there's so much work we get you to do involved in that, and it is more advanced. So in this, there's no references or no work that we're going to take you into as far as software is concerned. So things like outer text, we won't be going into that. eScribe or easy methods, we won't be going into that either, but we will be referring to them, especially when we move forward to probably towards the end of the actual program. So you probably all have had a document from me about who the course is aimed at, and it does actually say there that it's for novices or intermediates. And I have to say, I'm really pleased I'm really pleased, Steve. Yeah, I mean, Steve is an accredited vehicle damage assessor. Steve is actually one of my clients on the BSI work that I do. But I'm really pleased that Steve's been a great supporter. He's been to all of our online. We do a lot of webinars and Facebook Lives, and Steve always pops up there. Not necessarily like a bad penny, Steve.
Voice sounds familiar.
Sorry, I was waiting for that.
You knew that was coming anyway.
I knew that was coming. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically the course is aimed at people who want to improve their assessing, their ability to assess damaged vehicles. So the objective of the course is to actually equip you good people with the fundamental knowledges and processes of assessing a damaged vehicle. And believe it or not, one of the things that I come across regularly is how people tend to short circuit. They think that if they get things, you know, smaller, quicker, into a more sort of less involved process, that it means they're going to get through more. And quite frankly, they're probably not wrong. They will get through more, but they'll get through more assessments that are actually incorrect, because the devil in assessing, the devil is definitely in the detail. So what we're going to be going through in the course, they're going to be the underpinning actions that the vehicle damage assessor has to take if he wants to be accurate in his repair assessment. Now, we will go through, we'll start off next week. On Monday, we'll be starting off, and this particular part might well go over two sessions. But if not, there is plenty more behind it. So the first part of the course is about who the VDA is, and what we're looking at there is very easy for people to assume what the VDA does, how he fits into the repair process. But so often we come across the situation where the VDA is actually lumbered with so many non-profit making tasks. So they get involved in things like, and I understand, Debs, probably from your perspective, you know, what you explained to me about your business when we spoke the other day, I understand the dealing with customers, etc. Now, every vehicle damage assessor has to deal with customers, but sometimes when I go in there, they're putting customers into courtesy cars, they're having to order parts, they're having to accept the parts in. All of these things, vehicle handover at the end of the repair process, and the businesses don't understand why they're not making any money, or why they're not making more money than they are making, if they're making profit. So we're going to be looking quite in depth at who the vehicle damage assessor actually is, and his roles and responsibilities within the repair process. Now, one of the things that I had a conversation today, and the gentleman who you can see on there, John Thompson is he's my business coach, and we have a meeting every week, and ours was today. And one of the things that John asked me, a question that John asked me, was some of the terminology that I use can at times put people off, frighten them away. So really, again, that was the reasoning behind this evening's quick Zoom here, was just to put you at ease. If you don't understand something that I'm saying or talking about, or questions I'm asking, please just ask your questions. Ask me to explain it again. We all see things from a different angle, but there's no reason why you shouldn't stop me and ask a question. I'm quite happy to reiterate it and put it in a different fashion. So, like I say, the first sessions are going to be covering who the VDA is. The next one is the anatomy of profit. So the anatomy of profit basically is about how profit manifests itself in a body shop. We all think it's quite straightforward, quite simple, that we get a car in, we do the repairs, and we submit our invoice once the repair is completed. But there is so many things that the VDA, so these two parts of the program are linked. There's so many things that the VDA is responsible for. It's best that they have a reasonable understanding of profit, and we'll be looking at things like the KPIs for productivity, efficiency and utilization. Productivity and efficiency are so often confused with being the same thing, but when it's explained to you, you'll realize they're very similar, they're not the same thing, and they are both very important to the business. So we'll be having a look at those elements of KPIs and metrics when we look at the anatomy of profit. And then we're going to have a look at the vehicle appraisal process. Now, this isn't about looking at the damage. This is about recording information that you require to record, because the objective here is to make sure that you get all of the details of the vehicle. So many people are so reliant on out of VIN and VIN lookup, etc. And so often I come across, because we run a program called the virtual VDA, and we actually estimate for other garages as well. So often we come across vehicles that have got so many different trims fitted to them that don't match with the VIN lookup. So this is about the appraisal process, the type of things that you need to note on the vehicle. It's about looking at that vehicle and understanding the context in which that vehicle has been used, has lived its life, so to speak. And also the details of that particular part of the appraisal process really do go on to integrate in with the actual damage assessment process. So the damage assessment process, there is a written process for assessing a damaged vehicle. There is a pattern that you need to follow. There is a process that you need to adopt. The process it starts with, and I explained it in one of the documents that you may have downloaded, it starts off with the first and last undamaged panel, and doing it that way, you then, once you've identified the first and last, that gives you the scope of the repair, and then it's about how you record the damage on each of those panels, starting at the first panel, working your way through to the last panel, and recording that information using another part of the program, which is called core tasks and supporting operations. And it is so vital that you do write this down. Now, I know, Debs, you hand your assessments over to somebody else to actually, is it your husband?
Yeah, so I guess our VDA process is a bit split between us, because there's me and one other guy in the front office, and he kind of floats a bit between. But as a general rule, if it's anything bigger than, a pretty obvious, just simple scuff, or it seems like there's anything else going on, then we either get Dan or Mark, like, out of the workshop to come have a look at it. So we take customer details, take photos of it, you know, put all the details into the system, and we get them to come out and just cast their eye over it, see if they think there's anything else going on. And then, so it's a kind of group effort, if you see what I mean.
And I think that's one of the reasons. I mean, it's an ideal thing to point out here, that is one of the issues that many businesses have, that they, you know, the resources that they have to use are also the resources that are responsible for producing the actual work and getting the work out the door. And of course, if you interrupt a process, it slows down, it pushes further away that point of profit coming back into the business. It's a little bit like if you interrupt you know, technicians whilst they're working, especially if they're in a state of flow, it takes them another 25 to 35 minutes to get back to that point they were working at before. So it's a little bit like entering a junction and switching the engine off in your car and pushing down the accelerator and expecting to accelerate away, which is just not going to happen. So when we do the damage appraisal process, the damage assessment process, we'll give you a certain set of skills. We'll show you how to record that information. I will send you a document over to use. I know you're on Autoflow, Steve. Debs, are you on any particular management system?
I mean, most of what we do is retail. So we have like our own bespoke CRM system, which has the estimating system in it. We do occasional insurance ones. So we do have Audatech, but it's not something we use massively often.
No problem. So when you're doing your retail ones with your, do you do it straight into a tablet to produce the costing for the customer straight away?
Yeah, we usually either do it on the tablet or bring them into the front office and sit at the computer. And yeah, generally, as long as we don't have to get price of parts or anything, we usually try and give people the price when they're in the front office.
Right. Okay. This will, I definitely think that when you understand, once we get into this program, I definitely think that you will see how this can actually help you either improve the efficiency of your assessing function and hopefully even add more profitability into the business. Because, you know, one of the things about the assessing function is that, as I said earlier on there, it's something that actually affects every other part of the repair process. If you miss stuff at the beginning, if you miss tasks and time at the beginning, you will never ever find the time to make it up at the end. So it is a little bit like you know, traveling a bit slower at the beginning, but capturing absolutely everything. So we will obviously, in the damage assessment process, we will go through that. It's about getting it right first time. Hands up, even I struggle with that. Interruptions are the worst thing for me. Oh, and distractions, aren't they, John? And then the last session is about image. So this will be about how to take images using tools, if we because there are tools available for the VDAs to actually use, magnetic arrows, blend rulers, stripe boards, etc. To actually, you know, especially when you're dealing with an engineer at the other end of a line, he doesn't actually get, excuse me, he doesn't actually get to see the vehicle. So we're going to be looking at images, you know, and how clearly annotated images actually are there to support your repair assessment. They're not there to show the engineer at the other end what's wrong with the vehicle. They are, but that's not their first job. Their first job is to support the information that you include in your repair specification. So as I say, this was quite a short session. It was more of an introduction, just so you lucky people that have never met me before, you were lucky up until now anyway, so that you could we could just say hello and have a little bit of a catch up and see if there was any questions anyone had wanted to ask.